So today, Rich in Florida asked me to update some of the camera mount technology that we've been working on. And I'm not sure, what we have to report, but I thought I'd go through bike by bike and try to make a little report on what worked and what didn't work. And this is pretty straightforward. The things I've learned have been very significant. Now keep in mind, this is very subjective and subject to what I think is okay. What I found right away, immediately after buying these cameras, they were 25 bucks a piece out on Amazon. I think they're a little bit more now, but the Anart cameras. And the first thing I noticed is when you mount this to a helmet like most people do, the footage, it makes me dizzy looking at it. And in fact, when I've showed it to some people, I say it looks like you're swimming. Now what I tried to do in the very beginning, and I wanted to go through this step by step, I tried to just hold my head stiff, like I was a scarecrow. Well, I know you're saying he looks like a scarecrow, but that to a certain degree helped. But mostly, whether I mounted the camera frontwards or backwards, I still had this motion that didn't translate well. So I thought at that point in time, I've got to mount the camera to the motorcycle. That would be the better of two choices. Now another thing I noticed right in the very beginning, mounting it to your helmet, you're always too high. You're looking down like you're up on a ladder or something. So I made this chest mount that Velcroed to my jacket. That was a little bit better. It got me into the right position. But again, the problem is that your body moves around as you're leaning into a corner. And you think, well, wow, that would look cool. Look, we're leaning into a corner. You'd notice it. But it's the opposite, because the camera leans, it looks like you're leaning a lot less. Now, a friend of mine, Jose, made a good comment. He bought a camera, mounted it to his helmet, and went flying down, I don't know what River Road. And he went home and looked at the footage, and he said, it looks like I'm going 20 miles an hour. And part of it is that it always looks like you're going a lot on camera a lot slower than you really are. So you always have to take that into account. But anyway, I want to show what I've been working on. This is an ongoing development. And the ongoing development is such. I have made, I'm going to guess, these, I'm going to take them out one by one. These are all camera mounts. Some are made out of 1/4-inch material, some out of 1/8 inch that had various bends and to fit under things and around things. And I just have totally made the commitment that I am going to make a camera mount that I'm happy with. A lot of these have bends in the aluminum. A lot of them have various ways you can mount the camera. This is all experimental stuff at this point in time. And of course, when you buy an Anart camera and you buy the accessory pack, you get all kinds of little things to mount it to the handlebar. And there's a little thing that I threw it away, that you can mount it underwater, and you can mount it to your diving tanks. But these are basically the things that mount to your helmet. But here's the lessons that I've learned so far, and I hope this will help Rich figure this out. Again, we're not trying to sell anything, we're just trying to share some information. I made some of the parts out of carbon fiber. Unnecessary. It just wasn't necessary to make it. The aluminum, a piece of this aluminum is about 7 bucks in Lowe's. You can make all the camera mounts you want. Lesson number 1 of all of the stuff. Don't make anything out of 1/8 inch. Make it all out of 1/4 inch. I've shown, I know there's a video out on my channel already about making some of these camera mounts. I don't want to make this go on forever, but certainly the things that I've learned. And the number one lesson is, I like the footage better. Subjective. I like it better when the camera is mounted to the motorcycle. Now, as you can see, I've made, and we'll just do this bike first. This bike has a mount on the side. It has a mount in the back so I can shoot backwards when I'm in a group and they're in the back, whatever. And I always have a mount that I can mount forward. And in this case, because I like dark windshields, I need to be able to shoot over the windshield. If I shoot through the windshield, it looks like I'm wearing 10 pair of sunglasses. But this was the first lesson was, when you make this long, you've got to make it solid as a rock. And I even put this rubber bushing in here, which helped a lot. But some of the footage that comes off of this bike, I really like. Now, the downside of this is this has a resonant vibration at about, I'm guessing 10,000 RPM or something, because I've noticed the footage that on the full throttle, right at the very end. And I've even taken pictures of the speedometer to see what RPM it was doing it at. At really high RPM, this tends to give me a little bit of vibration. So what I do when I'm shooting footage, especially in a group, I leave it in one gear higher than it has to be, and that solves that problem. So with this bike, I've come up with that I can mount this here, and this is a relatively solid mount. I can move the whole bike. Up here, less good. I'm just not happy with that. These mounts up here are not solid, but what you always want to do, the first thing is look for a place that's hard mounted, not in a rubber bushing, a hard mount. And that hard mount there, when the camera's on there, another nice thing, I found this to be very, very significant for me. And these are the things you wouldn't think matter in the very beginning, but sooner or later you realize, uh-oh, this is the truth. From doing a lot of this, what I realized right away, I like it to be very convenient to just be driving along. I'm riding down the highway and all of a sudden a Ferrari pulls out in front of me, a Lambo or something, or another bike. I can just reach up and go click, turn the camera on, turn the camera off. Very convenient. And the problem is, I can't really do that when the camera's on my helmet. I've tried it, and a lot of times I don't hit it because I have a big thick glove on. I have my MotoGP gloves are just thick. I just can't feel that the button is right. And I've missed good footage, and then I've recorded 20 minutes of just riding down the road, droning on in fifth gear. So what I'm saying is I've come to the conclusion right away that for my purposes, I like having it mounted right up in front of me. I can look at the screen, tell when the camera's on and off, and make incremental adjustments to it. As an example, if I'm going down a road and I want to see where it's vibrating, I can point it down at the speedometer. I've done that. I can go back later and look and see that I've gone X amount of miles or miles per hour or whatever. So that was with this bike, coming up with these three mounts. Now I'm to the point with this motorcycle, I feel like this one is in the bank, and I've not spent a lot of time, and I've gotten a lot of good footage. It's all out on YouTube. You want to bore yourself to death, you can watch it over and over again. Or if you're at work, it's even better. You can get somebody to pay you to watch it. Nobody pays me to watch it, it's the truth. Anyway, that pretty much takes care of what I learned about that bike. And that was one of the first ones I really put some time and energy into. Now the R1 has a lot of unique little things that I have to work around. First off, I couldn't mount the camera anywhere to these mounts. They're very soft mounted. They're all mounted in rubber. That didn't work. All of these things, I guess all the fairing parts on this bike are done that way on purpose. So I came up with this mount that mounts to one of the Mira bolts. It's rock solid. You can pick the bike up by that. And I have an adjustment here where I can just carry a little Allen wrench with me, move this one way or the other, and by moving it forward and back, I have almost infinite adjustment here. And what I like to do, one of my things I like to do with, as far as shooting footage, I like to see a little bit of the motorcycle. Not a lot, just the edge. So I have a reference point. It's kind of like seeing where zero is when you're looking at something else, at tree lines or at the line in the road. I also, on this bike, I made the rear mount that mounts to the muffler bracket. Let's see if we can just get this without doing too much work. This one, it's still 1/8 inch, and it still makes some really nice footage. And I'm going to remake it in the future at a 1/4 inch material. I'm waiting for that rainy day that just hasn't seemed to come lately. But so from this bike, I can shoot backwards. I have this mount. I can shoot forwards. This back mount catches the edge of the muffler, so it gives some really nice footage. And I feel like right now I'm able to shoot reasonably nice footage with the R1. That one is kind of, I'm done. Hopefully just to make that bracket at a 1/4 inch will be the last little project before the winter comes. Now, any bike that doesn't have a windshield, if you don't have a windshield or some giant instrument panel you have to deal with, a lot of nice ways to do it. I made a little piece, and I made a spare one. It goes underneath the mirror mount. It's completely adjustable, and of course the camera goes back and forth. And when I'm riding, I like to either catch the edge or even both instruments, or put it completely off to the side, I could see the whole dashboard. Makes for some nice, interesting footage. I've also had the same thing on this side. I have a mount that I took off because I want to make it at a 1/4 inch. I don't have it on the bike today. I don't have a rear mount on this. I haven't figured out a good spot to put it yet because of where the shocks are. I'm going to have to make a bracket eventually that goes under here and comes out. And I just wanted to do this, even though some of these bikes, I don't consider this bike done. This is still a work in progress. But I still have gotten some decent footage from this that I've enjoyed looking at and enjoyed sharing. Now on the RD, because it's a 2-stroke, I wanted to try to capture the sound. And I wasn't real happy the way it captured the sound until I have the camera on the back. When I have the camera mounted on the back, I get a lot better feel of the 2-stroke sound when I have it mounted up. And again, this is a 1/4 inch piece that I made. I had the original 1/8 inch, replaced it with 1/4 inch. It got a lot better. I can catch the edge of the tachometer in it. No bends in that. It's real easy to make. It's a couple of holes. And I use half of this piece that normally would clamp on the handlebars. Now, I haven't experimented with clamping on the handlebars yet because when I looked at other people that were using handlebar mounts and I looked at their footage, it always had the look of there's a lot of vibration. Now, I've done a lot of work to figure this out. There's 2 things happen. There's the vibration, actually 3 things. The vibration from the mount being a diving board. The longer you make this mount, the more of a diving board it is. Up to a point. At some point in time, you're out of the resonance range, and then it isn't a diving board. But for our purposes, it always seems like it's right around 8,000–9,000 RPM that this wants to turn into a hex bug. But anyway, the solution for all of that, relatively simple. Just make the parts out of 1/4 inch and mount them to hard parts of the bike, and always make them as short as possible. And so far in our ongoing development, I was very happy right away. I hard mounted this with a bolt, not that sticky tape, because this seat is rubber mounted, thinking I might not get good footage out of this. The footage that I think it's pretty good. And I really do like looking at the footage from the back, and when the road is twisting like a snake, I think that really, even people that don't really ride motorcycles can appreciate that. It's a very flowing musical thing. Now, I've had the experience with this of making up several side mounts. I had them mounted there, I had it mounted there. This one was good, less good. This one I think is the best, but the problem is it just catches the edge of the fairing. I'd really like to, what I should have done is made this come back about another inch and I would catch more of the fairing. Again, I had it originally up on the master cylinder. I still have the bolt there, in fact. This was so-so, a lot of vibration issues. And then I came up with something that I thought never in the world would work. There was no way this could work. It's too long. But it's so long that it's out of the resonance range. And it's so convenient because the camera is right up in your face. It's over the top of the windshield. And you can just be riding along. And again, a couple of bikes pull out in front of you, or somebody does a wheelie or something. You just reach up, turn the camera on, and you got it. And it's very convenient. But the whole secret here is this, the clutch master cylinder is really rock solid, and this piece and this piece are all 1/4 inch. If any of this was 1/8 inch, I think it would be a whole lot less good. Now, the nice thing about this bike with the Norton exhaust, we have the Norton exhausts on 2 bikes. On this bike, I'm not crazy about the way it picks up the sound, but on this bike, it picks up the sound so much better. I don't know why. I don't know if it's in the camera or if it's in the mount or if in the resonance. But again, I know that by moving the camera, it'll sound totally different. Picking up the sound is a whole nother issue. Getting the footage you want. And the footage, and I'm going to get into this right after this, because that's another thing I learned right away. And, you know, when you have professional editing equipment, you can pipe in some sound. Well, I don't want to pipe it in. I want to hear the real sound that the motorcycle's making. This is one of our next projects. Problem with this bike is it's got a stock muffler that's extremely quiet. Now what I always say about this bike, when I want to go on a stealth ride, that I want to just be invisible to the world, this bike is so quiet, and what's annoying is it doesn't pick up any sound. You almost can't hear that it's running on the video. I've made a couple of mounts. I made one that mounted out here, but all I saw from time to time as you turned, it was hitting the mirror. It just didn't work out. I just abandoned that approach. I didn't even bother putting the footage out on YouTube. I had put the mount here and I put it here. I didn't like either one of them because I was seeing half of the footage was, it almost looked like I had half of it blacked out with the fairing. What I need to do is push that mount out more so I can record that. But one of the things I'm working on right now, and I don't know if it's going to work. We're going to know in the next maybe 2 weeks. I'm going to take the reflector off, mount the camera to the fork leg so I can see the fork leg at the front of the tire. Again, there's other places on this bike where I really could mount things. I haven't spent a lot of time because usually when I'm riding this bike, it's just for a stealth ride. I call it a stealth ride. Nobody even knows I'm there. When we're riding with a group or riding the two-strokes, you know, we're pretty much acting like we're teenage kids, I guess. But this was the first thing I learned too. When you're seeing too much of the fairing, which I did, the same mount was on the Kawasaki, the other Kawasaki, I made a spool, and that spool moves it out. Now I can make that spool longer, longer. This, at some point in time, is just going to be too long. One final thing that I found that can make your footage in vibration related things a little bit better. This is one of the two cameras that I have, and you notice on the bottom there's a little piece of balsa wood. Luciano uses a piece of a zip tie to, you'll see what happens here. If you mount the camera back into the case, here's what happens. It's still just a little bit prone to vibration. Having that little piece of wood, cardboard, a matchbox cover, or just being able to do this is the test, of course, is to get that snapped on there. You don't want to have that loose. And the vibration is such a problem with these. It's not something that goes away in one stroke of the pen. You got to work on it constantly. But when you have it done, you certainly do have something that's very enjoyable and inexpensive, and you can share it with all your friends. Now, some of my friends that go back 30, 35 years into the world of model airplanes, when I was very active in the world of model planes, I had taken a flip camera. I don't think I was the first one to ever do it, but certainly one of the first ones, and mounted it to a model plane. And I probably have that footage somewhere. I gotta look for it. That was just interesting stuff. But now there are people, and our friend Paul Taylor is one of them, that's trying to put these little cameras, and these are much better than the flip one. The flip ones weighed a ton. So, and this is just something, if you enjoy this and you enjoy taking the footage of you, your friends, preserving the rides, my personal thing, what I like to do is, I like to, in the middle of the winter when it's freezing cold outside, I like to just go down there and look at one of those summer days where everybody's sweating and complaining how hot it is. And the cameras allow us to do it. And this whole episode is an ongoing thing. I'll look for some of the footage that I could splice in here, but believe me, it's an ongoing thing. We're not done yet, but we're enjoying it and we're enjoying sharing it. So I'll say right now, thanks for watching. In a warm weather climate, eat your heart out. We're flying. Oh, the camera's still on. Hello. Whew. I think I might have a heart attack. Anyway, we're going inside. We're gonna make a pot of coffee. And this is me flying. This is what it would look like from the plane on a frozen lake at Billy Sargent's house. This is a camera mounted on the plane. You want to see some maneuvers, what it looks like. This is very cool footage. Obviously the plane's upside down here. Gives you an idea of what the G-forces are on a typical stunt pattern on a control line stunt model. Some very cool stuff Billy and I did from a couple of years ago. Square loop. It all happens really fast too. You can see the little spot we have shoveled off in the middle of the lake. It's on a frozen lake, which I'm not sure the name of the lake, but that's Billy Sargent.